सिन्दूरारुणविग्रहा त्रिनयना माणिक्यमौली स्फुरत् तारानायकशेखरा स्मितमुखी मामीनवक्षोरुहा पाणिभ्यामलिपूर्णरत्नचषकम् रक्तोत्पलं बिभ्रतीं सौम्यां रत्नघटस्थरक्तचरणां ध्यायेत् परामम्बिकाम् सान्निपातिकज्वर सततज्वर विषमज्वर ग्रह नक्षत्र दोषाञ्चान्या हर हर काली सर सर गौरी गम विद्ये आले माले काले बन्धे भज भज विद्ये मख मख विद्ये नाशय नाशय पापम् हर हर दुःस्वप्नम् विध्वंसय विध्वंसय विघ्नविनाशिनि रजनी सन्ध्ये बन्धुभिनादे मानस्तोषे मानसवेगे शङ्खिनी चक्रिणी वज्रिणी गदिनी शूलिनी अपमृत्युविनाशिनी विश्वेश्वरी द्राविडी केशवदैते पशुपति सहिते धीममर्दिनि गमनी कामिनी शबरी विराटी वाचक्री ॐ द्रं 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 ॐ द्रं गुरु गुरु
Namaste, dear friends, and welcome back to the second session of day 4 of our Global Festival of Yoga, which is being organized to celebrate wellness across the world at a time when there is so much of despair somewhere because of the uncertainties in terms of the health scenario, the economic scenario, the social scenario. A lot of our conventional ways of life have got topsy-turvied in the present circumstances. So in these difficult times, I think there is a lot of importance for us to have different kinds of initiatives that will promote wellness in an integral manner. So welcome to this session. I'm very happy to introduce our co-anchor of this afternoon's program. And our co-anchor is Dr. Subramanian Anand. And Subramanian ji is a very, very talented yoga expert in many ways, but he is presently the founder of the Adhyatma Yoga, which is a training institute for yoga. And more importantly, his service to society is through a particular NGO he has started called Yoga Mitra. And Yoga Mitra provides free service to different institutions with yoga knowledge so that they can improve their present conditions. So with these words, I hand it over to Subramanian ji, whom we fondly refer to as Subbu Bhaiya. So Subbu Bhaiya, over to you, and please introduce our guest for today.
Thank you, Dr. Anuradha, for the wonderful introduction. I'm so glad to be part of this International Festival of Yoga, promoting wellness. And I think today is a very wonderful app session we're going to have on spiritual wellness from the masters. And always when we walk in the path of wellness and well-being, we need to have examples how we need to take the path. And that's where the role of the spiritual masters come to us. And we are so glad that the expert we have today, Shri Priya Vaidya, is a wonderful researcher on this aspect. And we welcome Priya Vaidya ji for the session on behalf of Indica Yoga and the Global Festival of Yoga. Friends, Priya Vaidya is an assistant professor at the Department of Philosophy at the University of Mumbai. And she was awarded with Harris Tata Fellowship in the year 2015 for her postdoctoral research on the work of Swami Vivekananda, who is with us. But for Vivekananda, today in this modern time, the form in which we are having yoga all over the world would not have been happening. So I would say he is the person who opened the doors of the traditional wisdom of yoga to the modern world over. And so it's so nice to know that Shri Priya Vaidya had done a research on Swami Vivekananda. And Priyaji is also an author and a poet with several publications to her credit. And she also designs and conducts various workshops, training programs on applications of the Indian philosophy, focusing on teachers, students, doctors, government employees, therapists, mothers, and the younger generation. So Dr. Priya Vaidya, we are so proud to have her here on our session here on this occasion of the Global Festival of Yoga. And there is no yoga without the people who live with yoga. Yoga can be found in the textbooks, the scriptures, or in many other ways. But the spiritual masters are people who live yoga. It is because of them that we have yoga today. And so we are very excited to listen to your words, Dr. Priya Vaidya ji, on the spiritual wellness based on the message, life and message of the spiritual masters. With this note, I welcome you, and over to you, Dr. Priya Vaidya.
Namaste. Dhanyavadam. I express my gratitude to the Almighty Lord for this wonderful divine arrangement. I express my gratitude to all the spiritual masters in the world who keep inspiring us and guiding us every moment of the day. My many thanks to the organizers for this wonderful, I would say it's a spiritual treat. My special thanks to Anuradha ji, Vinay ji, and the entire team. And thanks to Subramaniam ji for a very generous introduction. This topic is very interesting, and I will try to reflect on the dimensions of spiritual masters in context to wellness. And I shall begin my presentation with a poem which is dedicated to my spiritual master. It all happened at 4:30. It all happened at 4:30 when my teacher in a lecture mentioned about your greatness and work. It all happened at 4:30 on a Sunday. Then when I purchased your books to know more about the other world beyond the gross and the bulk. It all happened at 4:30, early morning silence, where my mind now did not sulk. It all happened every day now at 4:30. Each morning was mesmerizing with wisdom more. where fears disappeared, and faith roared. It all happened every day, now at 4:30, where drums of divinity added joy. I grasped love for all was my master's divine call. It all happened at 4:30, and my master keeps inspiring me to know and be, and reminds me every day to respect thee, to respect thee. My sincere thanks to my spiritual master, gratitude to Swami Vivekananda, who inspired me to be what I am in different ways. And it was at the age of 14 that I first read Swami Vivekananda's book, and I'm grateful to my teacher who introduced me to Vivekananda's thoughts. And as I started reading Vivekananda's books and understanding his thoughts, I started understanding the essence of human life. So today's presentation, which I intend to share through which I intend to share my thoughts, is based on my understanding about what I have learned in my life, and also the knowledge which I gathered, little knowledge which I gathered on this path, learning philosophy, understanding it. I have tried to integrate these dimensions. And in that process, I have tried to also reflect on the dimensions of wellness. So my discussion or sharing of thoughts will be in 3 or 4 ways. First, who's a spiritual master? Second will be what is so unique about a spiritual master? Third, what do we understand by the term wellness? And how do spiritual masters help us to understand the essence of wellness? And what is the relevance of understanding this wellness in the modern age? After understanding, grasping about wellness, what next? So I have tried to focus on these 4 or 5 dimensions in my thought, and I will try my best to put my thoughts across. I do not claim that these are my thoughts in that sense, because as I have already said, that the blessings and guidance of spiritual masters, our teachers, and our parents and life experiences and the good people we have met, all this leads us to learning. And through this learning, we happen to grasp something. And in that process, I'm trying to share. So I am going to focus on the question, who is a spiritual master? I have tried to ask this question to myself, because when I started reading Swami Vivekananda's thoughts at 14, I was reading his thoughts as a philosopher, as a thinker. But I do not know when the spiritual master in Vivekananda awakened and the guidance I received. So who's a spiritual master is the one who from within has all the aspects of spirituality which gradually manifests. So here I also focus that there are the karmic layers which help the spiritual master to be a spiritual master. There is also obviously very important focus on divine grace. So divine grace plays a very important role in the life of the spiritual master, and the role of spiritual master is the will to travel within. So the 3 dimensions help the spiritual master on this journey. The role of a guru is significant in the life of a spiritual master. In the case of Vivekananda, we all know that Sri Ramakrishna's role in inspiring him, in helping him to realize the within and to explore the world was significant. Moving ahead, the spiritual master also has a yogic lifestyle, which is followed naturally. And there is no compulsion. There is consistency in this lifestyle. So it comes naturally to the spiritual master to live the way they live. Then spiritual masters are God-centric and are able to connect with the divine in all the phases of life. So whether it is suffering, whether it is happiness, whether it is some kind of a crucial question about life, in all this, the immense faith. Here I would also like to mention, when we look at Indian philosophy and spiritual masters in India, the spiritual framework has played a very important role when we try to study these spiritual masters. So although I may be mentioning about Vivekananda, but these dimensions are common to all the spiritual masters in India as we try to deeply study them. We also try to focus that they are also focusing on introspection. They are blessed with intuition and they have intricate understanding about life experiences. So no life experience according to them is ordinary. There is something to learn from that experience. So in that sense, the spiritual master has that wisdom to understand the essence of life experiences and the purpose of life. The spiritual master also practices freedom. Freedom here means not being a slave of any desire or a particular circumstance or for publicity or for wealth. So in short, uh, spiritual masters do not announce that I am a spiritual master. So this is something very interesting because they are beyond all this, and so they do not state about whatever qualities they have. They are compassionate and empathetic always. So there is no discrimination which they follow. So they are compassionate and empathetic. They are also objective and guiding force. It is very necessary to note this dimension because being objective means to perceive the situation of the person as he or she is. So when we have this objectivity, the spiritual master is in a process to make the other realize, to look within, to improve, to transform. So this objectivity is essential. Spiritual masters are also detached because when we look at the spiritual framework of the spiritual masters, detachment is one aspect. When we look at yoga philosophy, abhyasa and vairagya play a very important role in this transformation. So the abhyasa aspect is also constant and vairagya aspect is what their lifestyle becomes. And they inspire people across generations. So their body, perhaps when we look at the spiritual masters, when we look at human life, we have a particular, we live for some years, but the extraordinary dimension of a spiritual master is that they live forever. So this living forever implies that their thoughts keep inspiring. And that's the reason when I'm sure most of you will agree with me that whenever we read books by spiritual masters or they have tried to reflect on their thoughts, there is a vibration which one gets when one reads these thoughts. There is something which inspires. So it's a very interesting thing that the thoughts inspire uh, us to do whatever we want. And it is something where we are trying to say these vibrations cannot be actually empirically verified, but there is something about the thoughts at the vibration level which science still has to explore, that in what way these vibrations impact. And here from the philosophical angle, I would also like to say that when we look at spiritual masters from scientific dimension, some scientist friends are not ready to accept these spiritual masters because their work does not inspire them. There is no verification which is possible, and sometimes they are dismissed as meaningless people. When we look at those who are trying to look at spiritual masters from the ism camera, There are people who try to develop cults out of it, or try to trap the spiritual thoughts of these spiritual masters in a ism. So it gives a lot of scope for superstition and orthodoxy. We've also seen some philosophers who are not ready to accept spiritual masters' work as something which is going to enrich philosophy. So I just want to reflect when I'm trying to focus on who is a spiritual master, that there is a need to relook at spiritual master. There is a need to rebuild our understanding. And the more we try to travel inside, we will be in a better position to grasp the essence of these spiritual masters, because they have tried to contribute tremendously in this process of wellness, in the dimensions of good life, and also to the aspect of yoga. So we also should know who's a spiritual master, because today we are aware that there are many pseudo spiritual masters who try to say that yes, we are spiritual masters, and people are cheated, people are taken on a ride. And so it is necessary to also understand that who is a spiritual master and who is not a spiritual master. And once we are able to do that, there are some quiet spiritual masters. I'm sure that we are aware that there are so many spiritual masters across different countries who have lived a different life, and maybe we are not aware about them also. So there are some, we are fortunate that we have come across some spiritual masters, and their wisdom has helped us in different ways. Now, when I have stated that spiritual masters are not ordinary persons, there's $1 million question that among so many people, why are only few spiritual masters? So what is that extraordinary dimension in the way they look at life, and in what way they try to be different? They do not decide to be different, they are different. And in that sense, I've already said that the divine grace and the journey, because this life is a continuation of the earlier life when we look at the dimension of karma theory. So there is some kind of a karmic this also which tries to guide. I'm sure I'm going to get questions on this, and I will also answer if I get a question on this. But there is some kind of a continuation. And so when we look at the dimension of life in this context of the spiritual masters, we are also trying to say that they reflect on three important aspects. The first is knowing. Now, there may be some people who may say that I am also spiritual master because I know about technology, I know about everything. When we look at spiritual masters, their knowing is deep. The deeper knowing here means that it is not mystical always, or not magical, but it is intuitive. They have a better understanding about oneself, about the world, about others, and they are also very rich in reflection, and they have a finer foresight. So there is some kind of a deeper knowing in which they engage. And so first dimension of the spiritual masters is in the aspect of knowing. When we look at knowing, we are also trying to focus on the transcendence to transformation. So when we focus on the intangible realm of life, the knowing in context to the intangible realm of life, when we look at the spiritual masters, is very interesting. It is a continuation of a journey to focus on the higher goals which still have not been accomplished. And these higher goals imply the work which is still remaining in context to contributing something worthwhile to humanity. It also implies that they also take a lot of effort, whether it is penance, meditation, and all those aspects, they are self-discipline. They follow that discipline.
Priya, you got muted. Priya, you got
From
muted.
what is to what ought to be. So there is always a constant exploration of what is and what ought to be. And so this transformation is from within. So this transformation is from within. And so this is also one dimension of knowing. The third dimension of knowing is that which takes the spiritual masters uh, and make them extraordinary also is the aspect of awakening. So when we talk about their yogic engagement throughout and the divine direction which they get, this divine direction helps them to overcome ignorance at the body level, at the mind level, and at the level of this world in which they are. So there is a dimension where this knowing now tries to manifest into awakening. Now that's why we get an answer why only few people become spiritual masters. Now I'm sure in the audience there are people who are waiting or perhaps they think that I have perhaps forgotten the dimension of wellness because in that sense wellness has not yet come. And so I just want to say that I have not forgotten about wellness. I have just made some background of that because when we talk about the spiritual masters, the dimension of wellness is actually not just at the physical level only or at the mental level only, but it is the physical, mental, and also the aspects of the spiritual and the emotional. So we are going to move ahead. When we talk about the wellness aspect, we are going to perceive in context to yoga, wellness as a means to an end and wellness as an end in itself. So from the aspect of science of spirituality, I will try to reflect on the layers of wellness. What exactly I intend to do? I intend to focus on the spiritual masters and their work, but I'm not going to necessarily focus on what has already been established through their work. That we all are aware, we study and we continue with our study. As a researcher, as a person on the path of learning, what I have tried to do is what has still, that is the interpretation part. When you try to study the work of spiritual masters, there are certain secrets which you receive. According to me, those are dimensions of revelation. And these revelations which we receive is actually because of the lot of effort in their sadhana and their deeper understanding. And these thoughts they have tried to state. And so when we talk about wellness from this particular dimension, I have tried to focus on the aspects of wellness from the physical aspect, mental dimension, emotional dimension, social aspect, and the spiritual aspect. So in that sense, I have tried to look at the work of spiritual masters and try to interpret it. In the sense, I feel that interpretation is also very limited kind of a word in that sense. I have tried to understand it from the very essence. It is like listening to good music. When you listen to good music, you obviously give the credit to the artist, to the singer. So when the singer sings, the good music dimensions are able to reach to you. But when you receive that, you also try to contemplate deeper. So in that contemplation, you also try to visit certain dimensions about your life or other life or life in general, and you start the process of exploration. So in that sense, good music in that sense also is helping in that process of unfolding. So I have also tried to unfold it in my own way, and in that way I have also tried to explore the aspects which maybe have not been reflected when we try to look at yoga, when we try to focus, or maybe I have missed it. I may have missed it, and I may think that, oh, I am. So the point is not to state I am the first person who has stated, not at all. The point is I tried to think, and I thought, oh, this has not been focused in detail, but it should be focused. And thanks to spiritual masters who have made us understand about this in enhancing our awareness patterns. And in that sense, I have tried to focus on the dimension of the physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual. So like a teacher, when I just want to recap, when I said that, yes, we started our journey with what do we understand by the spiritual masters, who is a spiritual master, who is not a spiritual master. We try to also reflect on the important layers of a spiritual master when we talked about knowing, transcendence, and awakening. And then I try to focus on the wellness aspect, and from that wellness I have tried to look beyond the already established meaning of wellness, and I'm now connecting it wellness in context to yoga. And when we try to focus on this, we are also trying to say that what have the spiritual masters given us, and what do we in the sense when they have given us, what next question also I will handle. So from the physical aspect, when we talk about the physical, and here the physical, mental, emotional, social, and the spiritual aspect, which I'm going to connect, are all interconnected. So there is some kind of a holistic perception of wellness which has emerged when one tries to look at the work of spiritual masters, or the vibrations which continue to inspire us in direct or indirect ways. So when we look at the body, uh, there is a kind of an awareness that when we look at the body and the wellness aspect, this birth is also a big, it's a grace. So receiving this birth with a kind of gratitude. So the physical body emphasizes and validates its presence in this birth. So the very presence of life becomes explicit with the concrete layers of this physical body. So it establishes the relevance of this birth and the impact of divine grace. That means we should not take this birth or this body for granted. The very presence of the body itself is a kind of where we see that it is a reflection of the divine grace, and the purposefulness of life is conveyed through the birth of the body, and its nurturing also in this process becomes important. So we know that after many births we receive this life. So this life, there is some particular purpose, and that purpose has to be recognized. And to recognize that purpose, you have to accept this birth with grace. And as I say that when we look at the yoga dimension, that when we talk about the yoga aspect of it, the absolute gratitude to the Almighty Lord, to that divine energy, that I have been a part of this world. So there is some kind of a purpose. So please guide me on this path. So there is a gratitude. And when there is a gratitude, there's a respect also for the body. So this respect is that it is rare to receive this body. So the need is to purify it. So the need is to respect it in such a way that I do not get trapped in the dance of the desires. Or the focus is on purifying the body. So where I focus on the sanctity of the senses. I focus on the purposefulness of this body to be used as a vehicle for transformation or to perform actions which will be useful for the world, for a better world, for developing myself in such a way that I become an instrument to bring forward that change in this world. So when we look at addiction, when we look at how the body is exploited, when we look at how we do not take care of the body, we tend to forget why we are in this birth. And because everybody is not so fortunate. And that's why I think the dimension with which the spiritual masters are telling us that respect what you receive. When we try to look at the mental dimension of it, we are also trying to say that the life and work of spiritual masters convey the dynamics of intellect, reason, and logic. So when we look at wellness at the physical level, we can still go deeper with the physical also. When we talk about yoga, when we talk about the body, we also can talk about the Rita dimension of it and how we have to coexist and how we have to fine tune with nature. So this is also very, very important when we look at the physical aspect of it, or focusing on the Rina aspect of it, that what we owe. When we move from the physical, we are also trying to reflect on the mental. Here it means that freedom from the ego. So the journey to move beyond the I. So there is also the when does one travel beyond the I? When one is able to grasp the essence of the divine. So when we look at the spiritual masters and their work, constantly there is some kind of a focus on the divine. And that's why the culmination of I to thee is very important when we try to reflect on the yoga aspect. So where we're trying to say there is a total surrender. And the very interesting part which the spiritual masters have also told us through their work, through their experience, that the more you give, the more you shall receive. The more you are able to surrender. So something where we are trying to say that this human life and the material world, most people are fascinated. But beyond this material world is a world which is so fascinating, but one can understand the essence of it only when you go beyond the material. So you can't be in both the worlds at the same time. And so this is where the wisdom aspect which spiritual masters again and again tell us to develop. So with the practice of yoga also, where we are trying to say whether this particular surrender is possible. Whenever I'm performing asanas, whenever I'm also, whether I am in yoga only when I'm doing that yogic practice or 24/7, whether I can be in yoga. Because if that is what I'm going to do, then perhaps what the spiritual masters have spoken about wellness becomes more interesting. The second dimension is about divine intelligence. Human intellect is limited, and we have by now understood that we have no final answers to all the questions which bother us today. So there is a divine intelligence. On the path of yoga, one is able to receive the essence of divine intelligence. And the life and work of spiritual masters convey the essence of this divine intelligence, which helps us to negate selfishness, which helps us to have good feelings even to those people who are not good to us. Who also, this divine intelligence helps us to go beyond the frivolous. So when one starts going beyond the frivolous, when one stops asking this question that what am I going to gain out of it? When one is inspired to do anyways, let me do it for the well-being. When this starts, the divine intelligence becomes more awakened. And when we look at the life and work of spiritual masters, we see that they have been constantly guided by this divine intelligence. And it is not in the books that one is able to receive this divine intelligence. It is only by practice, it is only by the explorations, and it is only by life experiences that one is able to receive it. And that's why spiritual masters convey the need to evolve constantly. And this is an interesting dimension, and I would like to explore this thought, which I have tried to focus in my paper, that the interesting dimension of yoga is when in context to the aspect of divine intelligence is when I have more purity within, I am focused towards performing good actions. And when I perform good actions, I am again guided towards more purity. So purity and goodness in actions is interconnected, and this interconnection becomes more strengthened because of the divine intelligence. So focusing from this second point, we're also trying to say beyond boundaries concern. So when you look at the dimensions that the dimension of yoga, as one travels within, one is able to elevate more effectively. So this leads to elimination of any differences within. Also there are so many conflicts, and when we look at the world outside also. So when the inner development, there is a inclusiveness which one is able to focus because of the practice of yoga. So when we look at spiritual masters, inclusiveness is a very a term which is now very common, but I think spiritual masters since centuries have actually practiced inclusiveness. And this inclusiveness is again interconnected to the divine intelligence and to the understanding about the world, that this world is not something which is divided and nobody is different, all are a part of this. And so moving from the physical, we move to the mental, and then we also move to the emotional aspect of it. When we talk about the emotional, I look at the spiritual masters in context to reflections and role modeling. When we talk about wellness, the inspiration which we receive from the spiritual masters, I think is very, very important. They provide a path, they guide us, they inspire us. And in this process of inspiration, we are trying to say that there are three dimensions of dialogue which happen at the emotional aspect when we look at it. There is, they help us to develop a more meaningful dialogue with oneself. So when we try to look at the path of yoga also, the more you are on that path, the more is the dialogue, the more important is the dialogue with oneself. And this dialogue is not negative now. This dialogue is more positive, it is pro-life, proactive. Second is there is a dialogue with God or the divine or divine energy. So if someone doesn't believe in God also, there is some kind of a dialogue where there is some kind of a transcendence, there is some kind of a understanding, there is some kind of a direction which one gets. And the third is there is an improvement in the dialogue with others also. So when we look at the spiritual masters and their work, we try to say their reflections also guide us in that kind of role modeling. So yoga experts can be extremely meaningful and effective communicators at these three levels if we try to study the life and work of spiritual masters. I also want to say that they also at the emotional level focus on to accept diversity. I'm sure friends, you know that most conflicts arise because we see that people don't want to accept the other. There may be different kind of reasons for it. So this, when we look at the diversity aspect of it, the work of spiritual masters also indicate that wellness comes when you learn to accept the other as one is. So when you start accepting the other as one is, you are actually trying to respect the person. And gradually when we come in contact with each other, then there is a transformation. I also want to point out one thing, that I always feel that when there are people who say, oh, that person, I have started accepting that person, we tend to forget one important thing, which I have learned from my study of spiritual master, is that if we want others to accept us, We accept somebody. We always think we are doing something, but we also tend to forget that somebody else is also accepting us. And that's why nobody is perfect. So there are limitations. If you read the work of spiritual masters, they have also given certain instances which also state that they also had some limitations. They also had some, but somebody understood them, and how they were having that gratitude towards that person who made them understand about certain kind of a difference or some kind of a problem. So here we are trying to say that in that sense, spiritual masters' work is very realistic. It is not something which is very idealistic and one cannot identify with. They also focus, when we talk about wellness, from the emotional aspect, interconnection with others. So it is said spiritual masters also inspire us to work with as many people, because when you work with as many people, you are also training yourself to coexist. Coexistence is not just a theoretical term. When you learn to coexist, you are actually trying to elevate. And this is also some kind of a meditation, because you are trying to contemplate, you're trying to focus on it, and you're trying to move beyond it. Also, there is one more thing where you try to learn. You also learn that this entire family, the group is not something different. This is Vasudeva Kutumbakam. And third thing, when you start working with people, Vivekananda says it is only when you start working with people that you know how they are, or they know how you are. So Vasudeva Kutumbakam, then knowing the other and the other knowing you. And one more thing, when you start working with the other, you also learn the dimension of detachment. Because this is a human tendency that we always like to say, I did it, or this is my work. But when you work together in a family, in a group, in an organization, you have to sacrifice at some point that I have done. When it is a collective work, it becomes more meaningful. And so can we move towards that collectiveness, so that when we develop our own nation, when we develop the world, and when we try to reflect on peace, all these collective initiatives are going to be most important than the individual one, as I feel it. When we look at the wellness, already I have focused on the social in the emotional aspect also. There is a concern for the other. The more we are concerned about the other, the richer our life becomes. The more selfish we are, the more static we will be. And so gratitude to the spiritual masters who are trying to tell us that reach out, try to understand, try to help. And in helping, you will be helped in some way. There is some kind of elevation which is possible, but only you will understand when you help. Then respect the difference and accept as people are, and don't try to impose. And when we talk about this working together, we are trying to say that the more we are able to know the other, the more we will also know oneself. So sometimes we meet some people who are very difficult to understand. We generally, some people say, oh, this person is very difficult. It's very difficult to work. Now, it is not that we will always meet people who are like us, or who are like easy, so to understand. So in that sense, we are trying to say that we have to have this kind of an approach. When we talk about wellness, the spiritual dynamics, we try to focus on the spiritual masters. When they focus, they are again and again trying to hint at developing self-awareness. So when we try to focus on self-awareness, the more it is a 24/7 project. One cannot say that when I have now become self-aware. It is not like getting a degree and stating it. Vivekananda also mentioned that the minute a person is on the spiritual path, he should be more careful, because on the spiritual path, there may be pride about one being on the spiritual path also. So the minute you have pride when you are on that spiritual path, it itself will not take you further. And that's why when we talk about the spiritual aspect, we are also trying to say that these aspects also, when we look at it, how does it contribute to good life? How can this self-awareness help me and the society which is around me? And how this can enhance spiritual maturity? Now, what do we understand by the word spiritual maturity? When we talk about wellness, wellness also helps us to develop a virtuous life in this context. And this virtuous life also helps us to know that there are so many things which are possible, and everything can be done in a better way and for the well-being of others. So one starts doing this, this becomes more meaningful. So on one side, when we have wars, another side, we have people who are working day and night for the well-being. So, so when we look at the three gunas, the spiritual aspect, when we focus that how the spiritual masters try to have the sattvic dimension more focused. So spiritual maturity means that sattvic dimension which is more. When we talk about this sattvic dimension also, again being realistic that this life is not the end. So when we look at the dimension of this life, that life, we're trying to say that no attachment to this life, but as we know that trying to work as a Jivan Mukta and trying to do it in that spirit. And it is said death is just a process. But when you are remembered for your good deeds, then you become an extraordinary person. So in the context to spiritual masters also, we know that they have played a very important role in our life and continue to do that, even if today physically they are not there. My last point is when we talk about relevance of wellness in the modern age, when we reflect on the spiritual masters and in what way they have tried to focus. So from wellness, from the spiritual masters to wellness in the modern age, what are the challenges and what do we receive from the spiritual masters? So we also, when we look at, I have taken Sri Ramakrishna in that context, direction from the divine. So when, when we try to study Sri Ramakrishna's work, we try to say that one of the important dimension of wellness is the principle of divinity, which is at the base of it. That, I have tried to connect it to the deeper dimensions of care. Care, that is from the philosophy of care perspective, that there is a caretaker, and I also become a person who can take care of others. So there is humility, there is gratitude, and also there is a belongingness in this dimension of divinity, which is a very important dimension of yoga when we look at Sri Ramakrishna's focus. He also focuses on restraint and realization. So he tries to constantly remind us to move beyond the desires. And this is possible only when we are trying to focus on the wellness, when we talk about purity aspect of it. So when I'm trying to go beyond the desires, I'm trying to live a more meaningful life. So when we look at yoga, the more the engagement within with the divine dimension, the better will be the focus of I getting distracted will be less, and focusing toward the divine will be more. Third important aspect is of contentment. Contentment is very important because today we see that there are different conflicts which arise because of the desires. So when we look at Sri Ramakrishna's work, we focus on this contentment aspect also in a very in a different way, that the more contented you are, that contentment helps you to elevate. And that's why the $1 million question is what exactly you want in life. So when one is able to look beyond the material aspect of life, then life becomes more interesting. When we look at the work of Sri Aurobindo also, there are certain dimensions of this wellness we are able to receive. When we look at the matter-spirit integration or spiritualizing matter, so that becomes a challenge for human persons, that how can I spiritualize matter? How can I start connecting and making life more meaningful by developing a more deeper awakening about why I am in this material world. So this material world is not for just enjoyment. When we look at the theory of Purusharthas also, it is always focusing on dharma directed kama, dharma directed artha. Dharma here means righteousness. So this righteousness I have to cultivate, and I have to actually try to reflect in the society in which I am. And that's why when we talk about divinity dynamics, when we reflect on Sri Aurobindo's work also, or when we talk about divinity dynamics also, when I try to study Sri Aurobindo's work, that there is a kind of a direction which one receives, that there is so much to travel and understand. So do not waste time in just what you have understood. That means sometimes when we read something, we say, I know this. Leave it aside, because we know that he who knows that he knows not, and is a fool, and he who knows not that he knows is a wise person. A philosopher has already stated this many years back. So this knowing is to understand the essence of divinity. And once you understand the essence of divinity, the integration of what you think, what you say, and what you do will become more meaningful. And that's why when we also study the dimension of a Gnostic being, Sri Aurobindo also is trying to hint that this Gnostic being can emerge in the world in which we are. So it becomes a kind of it is a direction, that who is a Gnostic being, who can become. So to all those who are on this path of transformation, 24/7 yoga, this is also a dream which we can live for, live with, and this can also help us to relook and reflect. And that's when we try to reflect on the dimensions, we are trying to say that this life is a journey, and we have to live it more meaningfully. The more we understand, we know that we still have to understand it more. And that's why we need spiritual masters guidance. And it is a very important question which I asked myself, that what next? If one studies, one practices yoga, one is able to understand uh, what difference with this learning can we make to the world. I have also developed, thank you to Anuradha ji, who suggested that I should speak on this topic. While I wrote a paper, I also wrote a section on wellness quotient. So the wellness quotient, today we have the IQ, we have the SQ, we have the EQ, but I also thought about the wellness quotient. So this wellness quotient has to be enhanced, and all the brothers and sisters in different parts of the world, in different countries, who are practicing, who are teaching yoga, have one important work for the world, in which I am also a teacher, that we have to enhance and enrich this wellness quotient, and in ourselves first, and then with our own students, with our own family members. And this can be done as we try to study the work of spiritual masters, because this will be our tribute to them. uh, Years after years, this is going to be with us. The thought, the wisdom should give us the direction. So I think the wellness which I discussed at the physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual level, in less time, I'm sorry, I was not able to explore still further. I just thought that this wellness can be focused in the process of education, where we do not just give information to our children, but we also focus on transformation. So we need to integrate our present system of education with this 5 Ws, and with the focus of spiritual masters and their work. This will be a true tribute to India, and this can also get global. And that's why spiritual masters in the world also we have to study, we have to integrate, because my take is all spiritual masters have certain common dimensions, because they're touched by that divinity dimension. So there is actually no boundary also. Second thing, in the area of health, this wellness aspect also can be focused. So in medical schools also, we should have this the wellness aspect of our spiritual masters, and we should have doctors who are also given this training in yoga with this wellness aspect. I'm grateful to all doctors in the world and to the healthcare takers, to nurses, therapists. They are doing amazing work. This particular dimension of wellness can definitely enrich their understanding also. And we are also trying to say that when we talk about wellness, we are also trying to say in our everyday life also, how can we cultivate this wellness at the physical level, mental level, emotional level, social level, and spiritual level. In what way, if we try to look at our own mind screen, we have to ask ourselves that how can I become I can be better than yesterday. And this awareness at the individual level can help the society also, because we are also people of the society. We are in some profession, we are also important members of our own family or the organization, so we can inspire others. And so as Vivekananda says, that the greatest sin is to think oneself weak. Weak we think, weaker we will be. Strong we think, stronger we will be. And that's why I will close my session with Sri Ramakrishna's, from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, there is a small story with which I am going to end. Uh, when a mother came to Sri Ramakrishna and asked that I have a problem, my child doesn't respect me, and who is at fault? So Sri Ramakrishna smiled and said, you are at fault. So the mother said, but I have given everything to my child, whatever he needed. Sri Ramakrishna then shared this thought about a nurse. When the mother gives birth to a child and mother is not in her consciousness, the nurse takes care of that little one. And she gives all that love to that child, the little one. And when the mother comes to that conscious state, she and is ready to go home, the nurse hands over that child to the mother. So Sri Ramakrishna says all mothers should be like the nurse. You have to learn to detach. You have to love the other and not get attached. And he says the boat should be in the water, but the water should not get into the boat. The minute the water gets into the boat, then it's a problem. So my best wishes to everybody, my prayers to the Lord, that may we all be guided on this path of wellness from now, or maybe your journey has already started. Thank you very, very much. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Dr. Priya Vaidya, for this wonderful, simple, easy, but very profound presentation that you had made on the aspect of spiritual wellness by insights from the life and message of the spiritual masters, quoting from Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, Sri Aurobindo, and lot many. I think people are today in a kind of situation where health and wellness are more focused, but as you rightly brought the dimensions, that it is not just mere physical or mental, nor emotional or social, but spiritual wellness is very important. And you had suggested about the spiritual wellness quotient being also added. That's a wonderful insight that you have added to the arena of the wellness and well-being. So once again, I thank you. And we have a few questions. I think we will take some of the questions which are relevant. I would like to start with one question. I think there are two questions which could be almost the same. The answer could be the same. One is, how do we identify spiritual masters around us? How do we identify spiritual masters around us? And also, our saints and Swamijis whom we see around, there are a lot many saints and Swamijis we see around, are they spiritual masters? So this is one question, Priyaji.
It's a very, very interesting question and a very tough question also, because we do not have as of now any computer gadgets which are developed to know. But again, as I said, that it is through a lot of wisdom also. One has to also develop that discipline, that when you try to sit in silence every day, uh, you also get some kind of a guidance. You also develop that faculty to discriminate between what is right and what is wrong. So the Viveka Buddhi dimension. So instead of just going by what others say, what I feel, you know, and most of the times we are aware that we have that in us, that where we exactly know that this is not right for me, this is right for me. So understanding and listening to that voice of conscience, and this comes with practice. And second thing, it is said that it is said when the disciple is ready, the guru appears. So there is also a possibility that we may be trying to see, oh, there is a guru, but I always feel there are spiritual masters on our path. Every, you know, we see that there are people who teach us. Even a small child teaches us. He may not be spiritual master in that sense what I have discussed, but a particular circumstance teaches us. A child teaches us. A person who is not educated but teaches you something which your education did not teach you. You know, so at different, so how much focused you are to learn from the other, and most important, there's a spiritual master within us. So that is something which one should never ignore.
Wonderful. I think you have answered many other questions which I was supposed to ask you in one answer. At one shot, you had answered a few more questions. There's somebody who would also asked, you know, there is a saying, when the student is ready, the guru would appear. So I think you had answered that. And that's where, as you rightly said, we see masters like Sri Ramakrishna would even bow down to a small child, and he would say, I learn a lesson, as long as I live, I learn. And we see the Avadhuta, in the Bhagavatam, who is claiming to have 24 gurus. And these were not established teachers or masters, but the nature and elements all around, he had a lesson to learn. I think that's a wonderful insight that you had given to us. And one more question that probably I would like you to answer, though we have many, but lack of time. So one is, what is the criteria for accepting and understanding a person as a spiritual master? For instance, Advaita may not be acceptable to a devotional sect that stresses on its own interpretation. Isn't it all relative?
I will answer it in a slightly different way. Whenever we understand and receive guidance or want to receive a guidance from a spiritual master, there is a kind of a path, that is a path in our life. There are certain circumstances, or there is some kind of a way why we also move towards that path. So whether X is from this school of thought or that school of thought hardly matters, because it's like a doctor, you know, whenever there is an emergency, the doctor who treats you, you just go to a doctor and you want the treatment. At that point, in that pain, you don't ask the doctor what is your qualification, you are from which college, you know. For you, that treatment, and the doctor gives you the right kind of treatment, and you are having that gratitude. So that intensity, I'm just trying to say, the intensity, you know, the intensity to elevate and to understand. So sometimes it goes beyond all these boundaries also. Because this question also is interesting, and I don't mind taking 2-3 more questions, because all these questions are interesting,
Yes,
provided the organizers have some time. But I
yes,
can
yes.
take 2 questions. That's fine from my side.
I think we will definitely take, because this is very important aspect in today's contemporary relevance. And Shri Ritesh Patel has a question to ask you, Priyaji, that can one not progress in spirituality without having a spiritual master? Because today we have a lot of tools. Technology is helping us a lot. All spiritual wisdom is pouring through the technological devices. You go to YouTube and listen to various talks, or we have various applications which can help us in meditation and all. So in this situation, can one not progress in spirituality without the help of a master?
As I said that there are many ways to learn, but what to learn, how to learn, why to learn, the teacher plays a very important role, in the sense that the teacher knows what the pupil should learn and when and what that pupil should learn. That is one thing. So I'll always feel that the role of a teacher is very, very important. Uh, Today, when we are in the technological world, people have also started questioning whether we really need teachers. But I'm sure all of us, we've been very fortunate to have teachers who helped us to be what we are. So the concern which comes from a teacher does not come from a machine. So we may learn, keep learning, but what is required, whether we are learning that. So that is very important, and that's why, as I said, that we may be exposed to different dimensions of learning. As I said, there's a spiritual master inside also. So when you listen to everything and then you keep it aside, and can you devote some time to your own self? Because I understand that today people do not have time, and secondly, we are doubtful who are the genuine spiritual masters. But in that sense, we can read good books, we can listen to good lectures. But when we read good books and listen to good lectures also, there is something which we have to listen to every day, that is the voice which comes from within. So that voice is actually going to add more music to your life. So please continue everything, but your own the time with your own self is very, very important, because that will help you to elevate.
Wonderful. Sri Chetan Gandhi has a question that if we had one Shankaracharya ji, then was there a need for another Ramakrishna or any other gurus? We say lot many are coming, whereas some philosophies I think have this concept also that there is only an eternal spiritual master guru, and then you don't have to follow anybody else. So when that kind of idea is there, whereas we see in other philosophies that there are lot many people coming as and on the time needs. So what is your perception on this, Priyaji?
Again, this is an interesting question that I always feel there's a diversity of thought always enhances learning. So the more the thought, the more the understanding, and none of these spiritual masters have said, this is it. Beyond this, there is nothing now. I have said the final thing. And especially in India, we see this diversity of thought which has helped us to enrich our knowledge. So this is something very interesting, that perhaps in the future also we are going to have great spiritual masters in the future also, who will help us to look at life in a still deeper way. So there is always an advancement. Even in science, we have advancement because science is probable. So we see that scientists also are trying to give us something new and something still deeper. When we talk about spirituality, still deeper, still more, much more understanding can be enhanced. And that's why I feel this should continue. This diversity is very rich, and it will help the world to still be a much better place, because still we means we do have a lot of this dimension wisdom. As I always feel that technologically we have become very rich, but spiritually we still are poor. So the spiritual masters work, I think the study has to start, which has not yet started, and the entry should be in educational institutes, and yoga experts also should focus, and even computer scientists, astronomers should study spiritual uh, masters work. Everybody should study it, and we people in philosophy should study science, people in technology should. So it should be interdisciplinary approach that will make learning more interesting.
Very true, very true. Thank you, Dr. Priyaji. I think one last question, which you are the right person to answer. Dr. Jaiprakash Gupta has a question here that you spoke about the spiritual wellness quotient. So have you developed a tool to measure it?
I am on that path. So it's a challenge, but I am ready to take that challenge. And I hope that as my study of the spiritual masters becomes more deeper, I think I will get some direction. And again, that will be dedicated to all spiritual masters in the world. That will be my focus for the well-being of the world. Thank you very, very much.
Very nice, very nice. I think you had answered all of our questions and doubts. And we are so glad and happy that, you could patiently take time to answer all these questions. And, there are many aspirants who are interested to take in this path of spirituality as such. But, as Kabir Das says, "Kaun batave bhat," who will show us the path, right? So only Guru Bina, Kaun batave bhat, he says, Guru Bina, except for a Guru, a spiritual master, who can show us the way. And you had shown us the way to know who the spiritual master is and how the spiritual master can guide us in our life and well-being. So I think that's a wonderful thing. And one important thing, what I would say in nutshell, of all that you spoke for the hour. So we have, as we say in yoga, yoga is a union of the Jivatma with the Paramatma. But we need a Mahatma who will show the path, and that Mahatma is the spiritual master, and Mahatma is one whose Manasyekam, Vachasyekam, Karmanyekam Mahatmanaha, whose speech, word, and action are all one and the same. That Ekatvam is what you gave in nutshell, Priyaji, and we are so glad that you could be with us as a part of this global festival of yoga, and brought one of the most important missing aspect of yoga in today's contemporary yoga world. We are celebrating the International Day of Yoga even on that day, when one of the presentations in some university, when they asked, what is that? Because everybody were talking of COVID-19, immunity and all those things. So they were asking me, and I said, will you allow me to talk something which I feel to talk? So they said, yes, please go ahead. So the topic I gave was Adhyatma, the missing component in today's contemporary world of yoga. I think the same line is what you have addressed, and I'm so glad that you could answer all of our queries.
I just want to speak for a minute. My gratitude to all the viewers, teachers, yoga masters, scholars, students, parents, everybody, for your time and for your interesting questions, for your compliments, and may we all be guided to that particular dimension of making this world a more peace-loving. Thank you very, very much. And thank you, Subramaniam. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyaji, Dr. Priyaji. And I think our host, Srimati Anuradha ji, will have something to add to the session today.
So thank you very much, Priyaji, for this excellent presentation, because all of us have on the yoga path have some form of guru or the other, but to have analyzed it so brilliantly and presented it to us so lucidly, I think that was a very special takeaway, and many of our people in the audience have greatly appreciated this contribution of yours. And I would fall short if I did not also compliment Subbu Bhaiya or Subramanian ji for his wonderful anchoring, where he beautifully complimented also a lot of you've said, because he himself has had the good fortune of following a lot of masters. So I think this was a very enriching session for those who would want to understand the dynamics of what happens when you have a spiritual master. So you've been very beautifully able to put that forth. And Dr. Jayaprakash.
And I had the privilege of doing my research on also the same lines. So we were sharing the same vibrations when she was mentioning all those. We have almost similar lines that we have worked at, taking different dimensions of spiritual masters.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. And I was just saying, Dr. Jayaprakash Gupta ji, who's been a very regular listener to our session. So thank you very much for that idea of saying the wellness quotient is important. Maybe you need to develop that. And we have many other people on the audience who have been regularly following our programs. So for you, thank you all for being there, for patiently staying till the end, and keeping our levels of enthusiasm to know and to also ask. That inquisitive mind, I think, is a source or is a very important ingredient of the yoga practice. And I would just like to take this opportunity to announce the evening's program. So I would request Srinivas ji to kindly put it on the screen. So we have a very senior practitioner who's done many years of sadhana under Guru. Talking of masters, he had a very rigorous kind of a Hatha Yogi Guru called Sri Sri Sachidananda Swami. And being a Frenchman, he would travel to India, spend a lot of hours in those very rigorous asana training. Swami Sri Sri Sachidananda ji was a Mauna Swami for over 40 years. He was silent. So his entire teachings, you needed to have a completely different mind to be able to absorb that. So Rodolphe Milia is the director of the Teachers Training School and called Cefito in France, in Rennes. And he's going to be taking us through a practical session on pranayama, the happiest way to awaken the Kundalini. And this is also going to be a very good opportunity for the French-speaking crowd to connect to this program very directly, because Rodolphe is going to be doing it mainly in French, but he will also be giving his instructions in English to the best of his capacity. So, I mean, he can speak in English also, but he's more fluent in French. And the title in French is Pranayama, le moyen le plus joyeux d'éveiller la Kundalini. Alors, nos amis français, s'il vous plaît, bienvenue. Faites partie de cette fête de yoga. So I request Dr. Priya Vaidya to kindly say the last message that she would like to leave the audience with, as well as to just let them know how they can contact her again. So we've had a few questions knowing how they can reach out, so kindly let us know that.
Yeah, my focus is, my suggestion to everyone is keep reading the work of spiritual master and contemplate on it, and every day at least contemplate on one thought and practice it in a month.
Could you please share how people can connect to you?
Yes, I'm not on any social platforms. I would like to share my email. It is Dr. Priya Research 21, Dr. Priya Research 21 @gmail.com.
And you also have a website where you share some blogs, some writings?
So it's still in the process.
All right. Okay. So I'm sure we look out for your name on that. And with these words, thank you very much, Dr. Priya Vaidya. And thank you very much, Subramanian Anandji, for this wonderful co-hosting of the session. And thank you to all the technology people behind the screens as well, Srinivasji, Koti Ram Prasadji, and Vishwajitji. So thank you very much. Please stay with us for the next